Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging into Kaspa, ticker KAS. The sources we've looked at suggest it's a proof-of-work project, but when it claims it's, well, cracked the scalability problem that usually holds back PoW networks. We're going to cut through the noise and really look at the tech, the BlockDAG structure, the consensus stuff, and this big technical rewrite they're doing right now.
Yeah, and it's important to define Kaspa right off the bat because it's not your typical blockchain. It's proof of work, yes, but built on something called a BlockDAG that's a directed acyclic graph. And this structure, this DAG, is really their core idea for tackling the blockchain trilemma, trying to get security, decentralization, and scalability all at once.
Okay, that's a bold claim. We know proof of work usually means sacrificing speed for security, like with Bitcoin. So if Kaspa says they solve this, what's the big performance number they're throwing around?
Well, the main thing they claim is that it's, right now, the fastest open source decentralized layer 1 using proof of work. Because of this BlockDAG, the throughput is just way, way higher. Some sources are saying it's already hitting speeds like 600 times faster than Bitcoin. And they seem to have a plan to make that even faster. Basically, moving PoW from just settling big transactions slowly to maybe handling everyday payments, like instantly.
Okay, let's break down that core idea. So traditional blockchains, they're like a single file line, right? One miner wins as their block, and anyone else who found a block around the same time, their work gets tossed out. Orphan blocks. The research notes this happens to about, 1 in every 150 Bitcoin blocks? Seems wasteful.
Exactly. That waste is the bottleneck. The BlockDAG is designed specifically to get around that, because the structure allows multiple blocks to be mined and added kind of concurrently. At the same time, you get genuine parallelism. The network doesn't just throw away that extra work, it finds a way to weave it in.
But wait, if you've got blocks coming in all over the place simultaneously, how do you keep order? How do you prevent chaos, like double spending? Sounds tricky to manage.
Right. That's the job of the consensus protocol, which is called GHOSTDAG. It's based on some pretty solid academic work by the founder, Dr. Yonatan Sompolinsky, and Aviv Zohar. GHOSTDAG essentially figures out how to order all those parallel blocks consistently so everyone still agrees on the final history of transactions.
And we should probably mention that original Ghost protocol concept, the precursor to this, that was actually cited in the Ethereum white paper, wasn't it? As sort of a theoretical way to handle faster blocks. And now Kaspa is actually using a version of it in live PoW network.
Precisely. And GHOSTDAG isn't just about speed. It's also built for security. It changes the thinking around 51% attacks. On a slower chain like Bitcoin, network delays mean sometimes a slightly shorter chain, maybe controlled by an attacker, can accidentally win. But Kaspa's aiming for really fast blocks. They apparently hit 10 blocks per second in testing late last year. When blocks confirm that quickly, the sources argue it becomes practically impossible to pull off a coordinated 51% attack.
And they're not stopping there, are they? The material talks about the next step, something called DAGKnight.
Yeah, DAGKnight, or DK, that's the next evolution they're researching. It's aiming for a 50% Byzantine fault tolerance.
Okay, 50% Byzantine tolerance. What does that actually mean for security?
It means, theoretically, the network could stay secure even if almost half the hashing power or half the nodes were trying to cheat or disrupt things, which is, a very high security threshold. Plus, DK is designed to be responsive, adapting its speed based on what the network can actually handle at that moment, rather than being locked to a fixed setting. So maximum security and maximum speed together.
All right, so we've got the theory BlockDAG, GHOSTDAG. Pretty impressive academic foundations. But who's actually building this stuff? Turning the theory into working code?
It seems like a mix. You've got Dr. Sompolinsky, the founder, who's deep in the academic side. He's at Harvard researching transaction ordering. Then there's Shai Wyborski, who co-authored the GHOSTDAG paper. And critically, they have Anton Yemelyanov, who's got 30 years of systems engineering experience. He even co-founded the Scaling Bitcoin conference. So real implementation muscle there too.
The sources definitely highlight this team, but is there any mention of potential downsides, like relying too much on academics versus, say, seasoned enterprise developers?
Well, the way the material presents it, they kind of sidestepped that potential issue with their whole project ethos. Kaspa launched completely decentralized, no ICO, no pre-mined coins for the team, very much in the spirit of early Bitcoin or Monero. They apparently operate under this mantra: no roadmap, just developments. No promises, just targets. No timelines, just results. Kind of a build it and they will approach, maybe.
Okay, building it while flying it. And the biggest piece of building right now seems to be this massive technical job, the Rust rewrite.
That's the big one, yeah. They initially built the prototype in Golang, which makes sense for getting something up and running. But to hit those really high speeds they're aiming for, the long-term goal is apparently 100 blocks per second.
100 BPS. Wow.
Yeah. To get there, they needed to switch languages.
So why Rust? What makes it so essential for that kind of speed?
It's not just about the language itself, but the architecture it enables. Rust gives you much better control over memory and makes it safer to run things on multiple CPU threads at once. This allows for true parallelism in processing blocks across different CPU cores simultaneously. According to the sources, hitting that 100 BPS target is basically impossible without this kind of fundamental rewrite.
Makes sense. So underpinning all this tech is still proof of work, right? How does the mining work?
Yes, firmly proof of work. They use a custom algorithm called kHeavyHash. It's described as a modified version of kHeavyHash, designed to be more energy efficient and core dominant, meaning it relies more on the CPU's core speed.
And there was that interesting note about it being optical miner ready. What's that about?
Yeah, that was pretty forward-looking. It seems they designed kHeavyHash with an eye towards future mining hardware that might use light optics instead of standard electricity for calculations. It shows they're thinking way down the road about keeping PoW viable and efficient, even for tech that isn't really here yet.
But for today, for miners right now, what hardware works best?
Well, you can mine it with powerful GPUs like an RTX 3090 or similar, but the most efficient way is definitely with specialized ASICs built for kHeavyHash like the KS3 or KS5 Pro models mentioned. And there's a clear warning in the materials. kHeavyHash runs hot. Trying to mine it on a regular laptop is apparently a very bad idea. Not recommended at all.
Good to know. Okay, let's talk money, the tokenomics. Max supply of KAS is 28.7 billion. Bitcoin has its big halving events every 4 years, which cause a lot of market drama. Does Kaspa do that too?
No, it's quite different. Kaspa uses what they call a chromatic phase emission schedule. Instead of a sudden halving, the block rewards decrease smoothly every month. It follows a musical scale pattern, actually. Right now, the reward is around 82 KAS per block, and remember, they're aiming for 1 block every second.
So the idea is that this gradual monthly reduction is less disruptive than a big halving shock, maybe smoother for miners in the market.
That seems to be the argument, yes. More stability, more predictability, a continuous gentle decline instead of a sudden cliff edge every few years. Theoretically, it helps miners plan better and might reduce some of that intense speculation you see around Bitcoin halvings.
All right, so we have this fast, secure Layer 1 engine, fueled by this unique mining and emission setup. What's it all for? What about Layer 2? Decentralized apps.
That's definitely the end goal. The high-speed L1 is great, but it's meant to be the foundation for smart contracts, DeFi, all that stuff. They don't have native smart contracts on L1 yet, but developers are actively building Layer 2 solutions to bring EVM compatibility. And the early tests sound, well, pretty impressive.
And what kind of results are they seeing on these test nets?
So developers working on L2s like Kasplex and Igra reported getting 100% compatibility with standard Ethereum DeFi operations and technical EVM tests. And the kicker, the sources claim running these operations was over 200 times cheaper than doing the same thing on Ethereum mainnet.
Well, 200 times cheaper and fully compatible. Why isn't everyone jumping ship right now? There must be a catch.
There is, and it seems to be infrastructure maturity. The core tech works, the compatibility is there in testing. But the reports also mention that the testnet infrastructure itself is struggling under load. Things like RPC servers getting overwhelmed, transactions timing out, or needing multiple tries. It suggests that while the underlying engine is powerful, the surrounding roads and bridges, so to speak, need careful scaling before they can handle major traffic reliably.
Okay, so they're being cautious, scaling carefully rather than just opening the floodgates. Sensible. Looking even further ahead, what are the really cutting-edge, maybe more theoretical plans mentioned?
2 things really stood out in the research. First, a ZK layer. Basically, a zero-knowledge roll-up architecture where Kaspa's Layer 1 would handle the sequencing, settlement, and making the data available, while the ZK tech provides the privacy and scaling. The second idea is called reverse MEV auctions.
MEV, maximum extractable value. That's usually miners or validators reordering transactions to profit, often at the user's expense, right?
Yeah.
How does reverse MEV work?
It flips the whole concept on its head. Instead of block builders extracting value from users, This model proposes that builders would have to essentially bid for the right to order transactions by offering kickbacks to the users. So the value generated by ordering transactions would flow back to the users themselves, compensating them. It tries to turn a system vulnerability into a direct user benefit. Pretty clever idea. So wrapping it up, I think the main thing to grasp is that Kaspa is really trying to make a fundamental leap for proof of work by ditching the single file line of a traditional blockchain for this parallel BlockDAG structure. They're tackling those core scaling limitations that have always kind of held back Nakamoto consensus. And they're aiming to do it while keeping that robust security we expect from PoW.
Right. And everything we've talked about, kHeavyHash, the Rust rewrite, the planned DAGKnight upgrade, it all seems laser-focused on pushing performance boundaries securely. The sources even floated a theoretical maximum speed of over 190 blocks per second for Kaspa. So here's something for you to think about. If they actually achieve anything close to that kind of speed and finality, what long-standing problems in digital finance, things like slow settlement times or needing complex, sometimes risky bridges between networks, what limitations might finally disappear? That's the really big question here.